I have I have about six questions to
Okay.
ask you today.
Okay. I'll take one or two.
Okay, not too
No, I'm
bad.
kidding. I'm kidding.
All right. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cheyenne's Forum. Today is July 1st. Wow, time flies. Welcome, Tom, my dear friend. How are you, Tom?
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so glad to see you again. This week we have so many good news. It's a good week. Um,
Right.
Tom worked in FBI for 30 years, and he actually worked as assistant director of FBI for 5 years. And Tom is retired now. Again, thank you so much for coming to our podcast,
Well,
Tom.
thank you for having me.
Sure. So we have a good news. I think it's a good news. And last time on last Wednesday, we actually talked about that, and you predict it will pass as Senate, and it is. About a couple of hours ago, the Senate had just passed a one big, beautiful bill, BBB, 51 to 50, with Vice President submit the tie-breaking vote. So
Right.
it's a good news. Now the bill's back to the House. And I just saw that the House Speaker said they're going to vote for BBB tomorrow. So what do you predict this time? It will pass in House?
I think it will pass, but I don't think it'll pass. I don't think it'll pass tomorrow
Oh,
because I think there'll be a few members of the House that'll huff and puff and want to,
mhm,
show off and get their headlines and all of that and get the president or the Republicans to agree to certain
mhm.
provisions that will help them. So I don't know. They could vote for it and pass it. They could vote for it, or they could delay the vote until next week. We'll see.
Sure, sure. So for the procedure, if they changed some policies in the BBB, so the bill going to go back to the Senate again, or it's the final?
It depends how much they change and whether they can resolve it without having it go back. But I
Okay,
don't think it'll go back, but I don't expect them to pass it immediately.
okay,
Not
good.
not without making some political points or, demands or whatever compromises that they want. But it could happen. We'll see.
Sure, sure. So President Trump wants to have the bill before him by Independence Day. Maybe it's a little tough, huh?
A little tough. Could happen. It could
Yeah,
happen.
we'll see. We'll see. So talk about the BBB. You know what happened between Elon Musk and President Trump again? Do you know what happened?
Yeah. Elon Musk and Rand Paul and one or two others are very, very dedicated libertarians. So they look at a bill like this and they have objections based on that.
Hmm.
Uh, but we'll see. We'll see if it matters. We'll see.
Sure. And I just saw Elon have his tweet, not tweet X, and said, if this insane spending bill passed, the American Party will be formed the next day. He said, our country needs an alternative to Democrat Republican Union Party so that we people actually have a voice, meaning that he wants to, or he promised, or he may be ready to have the third party, which called American Party, rather than the Republic and the Democrats. And what do you think about his thought? He really will do that, or can he successfully to do that? May consider he has so much money,
He could. He could. I don't know. I've been a little bit amazed that he's carried out this feud with Trump as long as it's gone. I
right?
think at the beginning, I thought part of it was that so many people were going after him, saying that he's in the Trump camp or he's too pro-Trump and therefore sabotage Tesla, sabotage his business interests and all of that. And that maybe in the beginning it was his way of saying, no, I'm not tied to Trump that way, and
Mhm.
to try to back off people going after him. But I don't know. He may be that serious of a libertarian
Mhm.
that he does object to how much is in that bill. And one
Right.
of the things that Trump has going for him, and he's had from the beginning in this bill, a
Mhm.
lot of people don't realize the tax rates that are in effect today
Mhm.
were put in by and passed by Trump during his first term, but they had a time limit on them.
Mhm.
So right now, if they don't vote to make those tax cuts permanent, it's going to be the equivalent of a gigantic tax increase for most Americans.
Mhm.
And a lot of people aren't paying attention to that, that their tax rates could go from, 18% to 25 or 30%, some huge amount.
Mhm.
And that's what Trump's had going for him from the beginning. He campaigned on this all during the past year,
Right.
saying, look, you need this, you need me to make sure this bill passes
Mhm.
to keep the taxes down, keep them from going up.
Right.
And
Right.
I think a lot of people don't, I don't know, think it's real or think he means it or anything, but that's the way the law is. So
Mhm.
right now, if Congress does nothing, you'll get a huge tax increase. Everybody will get a huge tax increase.
Well,
So
so,
the idea is that they need Trump's bill to make it permanent that the tax rates don't go back to the higher rate, that they stay at a more reasonable rate.
right. So, Tom, you mentioned about American family, right? So this is not for the high income or low income or mid income family. It's for everyone, the American
Yeah,
working family, right?
right. But they always say that we're going to tax the rich and we're not going to tax the poor. Well, this particular tax will be for everybody
Okay.
if it goes in. If it stays, I'll put it this way, if it stays in. And a
Mhm.
lot of people, what happens is you have this increase or tax cut like we've had over the last 5, 6, 7 years,
Mhm.
and they get spoiled. Oh, well, it'll always be this way.
It's
And they
not.
don't realize or don't pay attention that it could go right back to the
Right.
very high rates.
Right.
And the idea of that, from Trump's standpoint, is that the low rates are for business. They're to encourage businesses to expand and to hire people and have people available to be hired. And I think that's mainly what he's looking at, to have it be at the lower reduced rates permanently.
Mhm. So this is very important information for every American taxpayer to understand how important this bill is to them. And
And what happens is that I think everybody, taxpayers, citizens, we hear these warnings all the time. If you don't pass this, the world is going to fall apart.
people
And
can say,
after a while, they just think, oh, they're bluffing, or, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to the news anymore. I've heard enough news in the last year or two, so no more. And don't realize that this is one area that tax increase could go. And of course, Trump's not going to want it to go now because it's Trump's fault then. He's the
right.
president. He has allowed this to happen if it happens. So I
Mhm.
think that, they're trying to convince these members of Congress and the House of Representatives, the senators, that look what you're sitting on top of. It's going to be more than Trump that pays the price if
Mhm.
don't go along with the program.
Right, right, exactly. And talking about Elon Musk and his Tesla, I just saw information regarding the financial statement, the financial situation of Tesla. In 2024, Tesla report 2.3 billion in US income, but pay zero federal income tax. This results in effect tax rates 0%. Over the past 3 years, Tesla's overreach federal income tax rates was only 0.4%, significantly below the average corporation tax rates, which is 21%. So it looks like Tesla have a uh, very good situation regarding the income tax. So is that the reason that Musk is against Trump, against the BBB? What do you think? Is that
No, I think that companies like Tesla, that are in high tech areas where they're doing tremendous amount of research and
Mhm.
and development and spending money on that, that for them, that's always been an item to deduct and not have to pay taxes,
Mhm.
when they do that. And I think that for Tesla, for Musk in general, he's got the space program trying to go to Mars. He's
Right.
got the car program, and he's just introduced a new model in the last couple of months that's going to not be electric, that's going to, have a different system in it and
Mhm.
may put electric cars out of business,
Mhm.
which has been his bread and butter as the number one electric car maker in the world. So Tesla, there's a lot of behind the scenes action going on.
Mhm.
And I think for Elon Musk and Tesla, he's also the SpaceX program is being widely used by NASA to
Mhm.
create the situation to go to the moon, put a base on the moon, and use that to launch to Mars. And I think that, Tesla, as we've seen, Elon personally and Tesla as a company have many enemies, many
Mhm.
powerful enemies and competition.
Mhm.
So, so there'll be a lot for them to negotiate in the next months ahead.
Mhm. Well, so they have some different opinion on something that's reasonable and then very understandable, but have to come out to have the third party is another story. Some people said that the American system has designed just for two major parties. So
Yeah.
is that space for the third party in the political life of U.S.?
I don't know. I don't know to what extent he means it or he's bluffing or we just don't know. You know, Elon Musk is a unique individual, I'll put it that way. And so it's really hard to say, what is he really thinking? What is
Mhm.
he really planning?
Mhm.
What's the trick, that he may capitalize on another aspect of this that
Mhm.
we just don't see.
Right, right. So this is very dramatic situation because Elon Musk was 100% all in for Trump. It's about half a year ago, and right now they're just arguing, and it looks like they will become enemies. So is that a surprise in a political life, or it's normal? What do you think?
Uh, Not always normal, but it happens a lot. Suddenly people turn on each other, and what you just don't know, what's normal in this kind of political environment is this acting, pretending, oh, we're interviewed, oh, we hate each other, oh, we're going to do this. And maybe they don't. Maybe they do. Maybe they
Mhm.
don't. We just don't know for sure at
Mhm.
this point if it's real,
Yeah, it's
if
really
it's
hard to.
authentic on the part of Musk and Trump to be at odds. And if you notice the comments made by Trump about Elon Musk in the last few weeks have still been very tame.
Mhm.
Well, he's a good guy. I still respect him. So yeah, it's not like Trump has tried to cut his throat for
Mhm.
bad mouthing and going against Trump. So
Mhm.
we'll see.
Right, right. Yeah. Today, Trump just have the newest information from Trump is maybe we should dodge Tesla, dodge Elon Musk. So it's like, yeah, the eat back. So we'll see. It's just like you said, good point. Really don't know what's really happened behind the scene.
Right.
We have no idea. Yeah. So the other topic is about the ice block. Do you know the app? Someone developed an app called ICEBlock, have people put the location of the ICE who are arresting people. And then these people, some people, the illegal immigrants, can just avoid the area. So my question is first, is this kind of app legal? Second, CNN actually promoting this app. Is that legal? Is that allowed? Um is
Yeah, I
that
think the legal scholars are going to have to analyze whether this is a complete obstruction of justice, interfering with ICE or interfering with lawful activities by a law enforcement aid. We don't know. I don't know.
yeah. So I saw a Time magazine actually interview the guy who developed this app, and he said that this is just a information platform. So I have no intention to have people to just interfere with the federal agent. But indeed, just like J.D. Vance said, that when he visit the law enforcement in L.A., these ICE agents tell him that every single time when they show up in some location, within 15 minutes, there are people come towards them and block their legal action. So, but these developers said, I put a warning on my app and saying that this is just provide information, not encourage people to do something bad to the agents. So is this kind of warning will give him some free free like a legal charge?
I don't think so. And I think that it'll still be generally provable by the Department of Justice that the app's intention is to prevent ICE from doing what it can do and to, I guess, subliminally encourage people to resist ICE, including by violence even, or whatever it might take. And I think that, what this app developer is trying to use, I don't think he'll get away with it.
Okay, that's good news. That's a good news. And on the other hand, CNN actually promote these apps. CNN has the right for like First Amendment. Do CNN has the right to promote this problematic app, which potentially will block the federal agent from doing their law enforcement job?
If CNN is getting involved in advocacy of
Right.
a program or a method of obstructing federal law enforcement,
Uh-huh.
then I don't think they'll get away with it in the long run. And CNN is already on weak standing as far as low ratings and all of the rest of it, a lack of support from CNN and CNN viewers going away from them. So I don't think CNN will benefit from having this policy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Do you think it's possible for them to get some kind of legal punishment for promoting this kind of app?
Possibly, yeah. Possibly their management could get prosecuted either, and not just criminally, but you could have civil lawsuits brought against them
Right,
by
right.
the Department of Justice, by the government saying, look what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good news. We'll see. We'll see.
Right.
Um, and regarding the open board, President Trump demand the DOJ look into arrest the DHA, the Biden administration's DHS Secretary Mayorkas for adding an invasion of the United States. Do you think it's durable?
I think politically it would probably be very popular to do that.
Okay.
Mayorkas has no leg to stand on. He lied to Congress for several years. Oh, the borders are secure. Not true. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. Not true.
Mhm.
So I think Mayorkas has very, very weak legal ground to stand on that what he was doing was legitimate or even smart.
Mhm.
In
So,
fact, it was hard to argue that anything they did was smart.
right.
But if they did it on purpose to hurt the country, it's going to backfire on them. And the more publicity that they get for how bad it has been because of them, I think the better for the Republicans in the long run. I think
Right.
the Democrats somehow think they're in dreamland, that they can do all these stupid things and nobody will notice or nobody will hold them accountable. And
Mhm.
I don't see that happening over the long run. And I think Trump has played it pretty smart along the way how to deal with them.
Right, right, right. And Mayorkas actually lied on the Congress in front of the Congress. So
Oh,
if
many times, many times.
right, so if this is confirmed, legally confirmed, what kind of punishment we're looking for? This is a felony, right? So
Yeah, it's a
over
felony. He could be prosecuted. He could be severely fined. He could get jail sentence for that.
okay,
Um, he's not the only one. So many of members of the administration just lied through their teeth
Right.
thinking nobody was going to hold him accountable. That includes Christopher Wray. Now
Mm-hmm.
more and more is coming out of how many lies he told to Congress when
Mm-hmm.
he was director of the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
So Comey, how many lies he took.
Yeah.
So so now they're going after some of these people, and I think that they're kind of getting the message that what they did was stupid, not just wrong from
Mm-hmm.
a moral or legal standpoint, but just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid from a political standpoint, that the people wouldn't recognize that they shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And the other some other voice said that Mayorkas is a secretary of the department. So he has to follow the order from the above. So he did not have some legal issue. It's the one who gives the order who have the legal issue. Is that true?
No, they don't have all of a sudden immunity because they're following orders from the president.
Mm-hmm.
So, that goes back to look at the Nazi war crime
Yeah.
trials after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was just following orders.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the court in Nuremberg and many other courts later say, that's not good enough. That's not a good enough excuse. If you did illegal activity, you
Mm-hmm.
can't hide behind the fact that Hitler told you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a true story. Hitler has his a legal sentence, and the other people have their own legal sentence. It's not because of Hitler gave the order, so they are immune from the punishment. Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. So we'll see. Mayorkas is the one who actually opened the board and actually have the countless illegal immigrants to come into the country and constantly lie to the Congress. And I think he's criminal, to
I
be
agree.
honest.
I agree. I've been
So,
saying even back then when he was in office and when Christopher Wray was the director, even
right,
back then I was saying these guys are committing a crime and should be
right,
prosecuted. Christopher Wray included. All the
right,
times he testified under oath that turned out to be a lie.
right. And
So
last time you mentioned about Regal, the Regal law, and then you do the Regal law back in 1980, 1990s. It seems like it's very powerful
that's,
law.
the RICO statute,
Regal, yeah,
RICO, racketeer influenced and corrupt organizations. It was
right.
passed. The law was written by a Notre Dame law professor,
Uh-huh.
and he had been part of the Kennedy administration Department of Justice strike force attorneys to go after organized crime.
Right.
And then that he wrote that statute to have severe penalties, uh, enable advanced investigative techniques against members of organized crime, especially the leadership, the
Mhm.
bosses, and got that law passed. In the beginning, members of and I was in the FBI organized crime program.
Mm.
In the beginning, many prosecutors didn't understand the law. They were afraid to use it. It sounded so powerful.
Right.
And then Blakey went on a speaker campaign basically calling the Department of Justice cowardly for not using what he had enabled them to use that would have severe applications and be very successful against organized crime. Now,
Mhm.
once that message got across, and once they had all these seminars, and I attended a number of them, how to investigate cases that could result in prosecutions under the RICO statute,
Mhm.
and once you had the momentum of the FBI using it in our investigations, and then the Department of Justice prosecutors using it to prosecute members of organized crime, and then the sentencing was severe. So in RICO, if you're sentenced to 40 years in prison for racketeering, you don't serve 3 years and get out on good behavior. You serve 40 years.
Mhm.
And then, like John Gotti, the head of the Gambino family in New York, if you get cancer, if you get some severe medical, you need to go to the hospital, you need to be treated, you need surgery. Well, they have a federal prison hospital.
Mhm.
And so you don't go to your personal hospital back in New York, you go in that prison system hospital at the time in Springfield, Missouri. And he had throat cancer and he had, surgery on that. And didn't save him. He eventually died in prison, like the statute called for. Life without parole, which essentially means death. So the use of that statute, and many people right now, there's a very, very outstanding podcast being conducted by a gentleman that had been a capo, in other words, a captain in the Colombo crime family. Um, and he has this podcast, and it's brilliant. And it's very effective in explaining how the RICO statute really, really contributed to the demise of not just La Cosa Nostra, the American mafia, but other groups that were trying to form in the United States.
So that sounds very powerful. So my question, Tom, is we use the RICO on the gain, like organization criminal. So we use this law against a government. Have we used the law against the government, like a state government or county government or federal government? We never use that on the government, right? Meaning that can government
It
be
can be used
considered
on members of government if they conspire to violate certain laws. And the RICO statute specifies the laws. So it could be if you
right?
could commit a murder on behalf of the group, if you commit robbery, extortion, any number of things, if it's for the benefit of that group, whether it's the Gambino family or whether it's a Mexican drug cartel, whatever the group might be,
Mhm.
if it's a group of people that banded together to commit crimes, then the RICO statute is designed to take the organization apart, top to bottom.
So, like Biden administration, they open the board and have the illegal immigrants come into the United States. Do you think that is there any possible that we use RICO against them?
Possible.
That's good news. So it's really depends on the DOJ and see if they dare to use RICO, just like you described. Some people at the very beginning they don't want or they don't dare to use the RICO,
Well, they
right?
didn't want to. They didn't want to use it frivolously because they didn't want to take it away. It was so powerful that the prosecutors and the investigators, all of us, jealously guarded the ability to use that statute, so that we would not lose that authority, because that statute carried with it that investigating those crimes, you can use wiretapping, you can use advanced techniques, undercover operations, any number of techniques that you normally wouldn't be able to do just in ordinary crimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then
So,
again, the sentencing guidelines were severe.
mhm, right. So yeah, I'm keep thinking about Mayorkas and Biden administration is because they actually against the immigration law of our country to let these people into this country, and they know it, and they still keep doing that. So
I think they never expected that Trump would do to them what they did to Trump. That they
really,
thought, well, the Republicans aren't going to do that to us. The Republicans aren't going to hold us accountable. We're going to be able to get away with this. And you look at on the other side, not just Trump, but the people that supported him, members of his cabinet. So you looked at like Trump and Steve Bannon and other people,
mhm.
and DOJ went after them just as much as they went after Trump.
So
So
that
they tried to make it so that if you were a Trump supporter, you were looking over your shoulder to see if they're coming after you using these frivolous laws like they did.
mhm. So if that's the case, that means they actually against the law very frequently. They
Yeah,
just
and they
use
did not use the RICO statute to prosecute Trump and his supporters, but
mhm,
they used just the regular laws and then had their judges give severe sentences,
mhm,
like
mhm.
J6. You look at most of the people convicted in J6 were trespassing,
Right,
and then they get 10 years in prison for trespassing.
right,
Normally, they wouldn't get 10 years, they wouldn't get that much for murder.
right, right.
So, that's where the bias of the Department of Justice or the judges that were appointed under the Biden administration, where all of that matters.
Yeah. So thank you for mentioning about some judges gave the J6 people a very, very bad sentence, which is actually, at least it's wrongdoing. And will they have some punishment for their wrongdoing thing?
I
Or
doubt it, but I don't know for sure.
yeah. So that's the
Now,
problem.
one of the things, you're talking about the good news in the last week or so, the Supreme Court ruling that an individual Department of Justice, or judge, I should say,
Judges, yeah, right.
An individual judge sitting in one jurisdiction can't put out nationwide injunctions, which
Right.
completely at the discretion of these liberal judges is designed to neutralize any decision Trump makes.
Right.
Make his decision illegal, make it, whatever. And for the Supreme Court to finally say, no, that's not right, because
Mhm.
it gives the department, you have the three co-equal branches of government.
Right.
And now allowing these judges to do that makes them the most powerful branch of
Mhm.
government.
Mhm. Right. So yeah, that
So
is
kind of like in George Orwell's Animal Farm, where all pigs are equal, but some are more equal.
right.
Well, the judicial branch is supposed to be equal, not more equal
Mm-hmm.
than the executive branch.
Yeah, good point. Good point. That was a good news. A great, great win. A big,
Tremendous news. Yeah.
yeah. And
Now, the idea that they're going to be debating more seriously is the idea of birthright citizenship.
yeah,
And most people, apparently Democrats included, don't realize that the purpose of birthright citizenship, when that amendment was passed immediately at the end of the Civil War, it was designed to give children of slaves who
right.
were born in the United States
Mm-hmm.
citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they had nothing. They weren't citizens. They weren't legally immigrated. They were born to slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Parents were slaves. So that's why that amendment was passed back then.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately it was the purpose of granting citizenship to all these children that were born in slavery and born in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And now to have, 150 years later, to have people trying to use that for immigrants or the people that come into the United States for a weekend vacation so that they can give birth to their baby, and then their baby's a U.S. citizen, and then the baby later could try to sponsor them to come in. So it's a loophole to get around what's required to be a U.S. citizen, which normally is either born in the United States or naturalized, but
Mm-hmm.
not have the full, because we have laws where being born matters. You cannot be president of the United States if you're not born in the United States.
Right.
So, that was the idea of this, is to keep people from becoming super citizens
Mm-hmm.
when they were born to slaves. And so have it apply to a small, dedicated group of people in 1865, 1866, 1867, the immediate couple of years after the war, Civil War, that their parents were U.S. slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, being born to the parents, they have no other mechanism to become citizens. So they got birthright citizenship. But
Mm-hmm.
people now coming from other countries on a weekend,
Yeah,
they
that
come
is
in
enough.
pregnant and have a baby and say, okay, my baby's a citizen. That's
Mm-hmm.
what they're fighting against.
Right. I actually totally agree with President Trump saying, just like what you saying, is the citizenship is for the special situation when they formed at the very beginning. It's not for the purpose right now for the people to come here to have a baby and then they go back to their home country. And then when the baby grow to 21 years old and then they can bring their parents here. It's not the purpose for being
Yeah,
a citizen. It's not right. It's a wrongdoing. So I'm
exactly.
so glad that we have opportunity to adjust these kind of mistake. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a big thing as well. And then also talking about New York. Recently, we see a very good, interesting report. It's repeal who AOC really is, where he really comes from. She always said she is a Bronx girl who grew up there and know that people are paying for, and she wants to come out and then just become their representative for their benefit. But indeed, the journalism find out she actually was born there. That's right, but she moved to Yorktown, which is a suburb, a very rich suburb, and she grew up there as a suburb girl until the graduation of the high school, and then she went to a private college, Boston University, the University of Boston. After that, he went back to New York. So basically, she is totally, definitely not the girl that she represent herself for years. So, just putting one word, she's a big liar about, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I just wonder, will people really don't care about that? Because this kind of information is not hard to find out. She said she's a Bronx girl, but she's not. And well, people don't care about that if their representative lie about where she grew up, and then I don't understand this part.
I don't either,
People,
but you see that over and over
mhm,
with Democrats, especially,
right,
that they come in and they have all these excuses, and then suddenly they get all these people to vote for them. And so you look at the group that's around AOC,
mhm,
and they're all liars. They're all basically insurgents. They all denounce the United States. And here they come. In the case of she basically lies to make it look like, oh, I was born in the ghetto.
right,
And she grew up rich. She grew up in a
yeah,
very well-to-do environment
right,
and went to college and all of that. But then you remember a couple of years ago where Amazon wanted to open, a fulfillment center in her district
mhm,
that would have brought thousands of jobs and tremendous economic development to her district. And
right.
she got it vetoed,
You're right. I remember that.
you know. So she's not looking out for the people that voted for her. She could care less. She just wants to be able to make her own bones about power.
You're right. So I just cannot believe that people are so, excuse my language, so stupid to not seeing that.
I
So that,
thought you were going to say something really bad when you said, excuse my language. That's pretty, stupid's a pretty moderate term, but
I,
they're way beyond stupid.
right. I just don't understand. It's
But I
all
think that they're not just stupid. Many of them are smart, but immoral, that go against what's the benefit of their people and the people of their district or any of that. And then do it for their own gain, either more power, more publicity, more whatever.
so these people are being cheated, right? These voters, they don't,
Yeah, and then you look at it and you say, well, maybe they deserve it because they should be able to figure out
right,
who she is, what
right,
she, and and
exactly.
they still vote for her.
Yeah. So yeah, so then I'm just thinking that you see the politics like AOC, like Obama, okay, another beauty. And now the guy named Madini, right? This is a Muslim. And are these people really step into the politics on their own, or they are result of being set up and pushed? Someone
Yeah,
has
and he's not just a Muslim. He's basically like a communist socialist. And he's already talked about during the campaign and before the campaign of
right,
what he's going to push for when he's in office.
right,
Just complete social domination, socialism type
mhm,
laws
mhm,
that are going to be against the rich. They're always against the rich.
right,
And then stupidly, they don't pay attention that many of those rich are the ones that are running the businesses, creating the jobs, creating the economic welfare benefit to their community.
mhm,
And to just say, oh, they're rich, treat them badly,
mhm.
uh, just shows how stupid they are.
Yeah. Well, so his attitude and some voters' attitude is really remind me about the Chinese Cultural Revolution. It's exactly the same thing. People hate the rich people with no reason, and they want grab the rich people with
Yeah.
no reason, just because of you're rich and you're bad, and we treat you bad.
Well, the
This
idea is that they spread the lie that everybody that's rich got it because they stole it from the
right,
poor.
right.
And not, our entrepreneurs, aren't people like Elon Musk that
Mhm.
started from the bottom and built their companies up through their own innovation and effort. And, their companies are where they are because of what they did and how they did it. They didn't
Right,
steal from anybody to get that.
right, right. So, like 50 years ago, we see culture revolution in China. And 50 years now, we see the New York Revolution in America. Let me just put the name, the New York Revolution. This is so dangerous and so stupid. And then, so my question is, do you think these guys are organic, grow up as a uh, politics, or someone behind them, push the agenda, push the person out.
Yeah, I think somebody's behind them or an organization's behind them, the money's behind them. But we're
Mhm.
seeing that, when you see the demonstrations, the violence, and before the violence starts, what happens? A truck pulls up and hands out signs, masks, bricks. Uh,
Right.
where'd that come from? That was already in the design to have violence.
Mhm, mhm.
And then people like the mayor in New York City, I mean Los Angeles, or both, but the powers that be that are Democrats or liberals want it to happen.
Right, right. So I just saw the DOJ has announcement that they arrest assistant of New York governor. Her name is Linda Song, who is she has a lot of about six charges right now. She's in the legal processing, which I think is a very good move. The DOJ is doing their job. It's
Right.
so good. And President Trump is just saying in front of people that Pam Bundy is so good. She is tough, she's good, and she's doing her job. So this make me very happy to heard that just like you said, Bundy or Cash Patel, they are doing their job, but we need to be a little patient and give them time and give them the trust.
Yes, because to prosecute properly takes tremendous effort, investigation, documentation, obtaining records through subpoenas,
Right.
information or evidence, even through wiretaps,
Mm.
foreign governments, and all of that. And to do it correctly takes time,
Right.
diligence, and honesty.
Right.
Otherwise, if you want to do what Biden did to Trump, you don't need any time. And you
Mm.
remember at the time of that, when we talked, I said this thing, they're not going to get away with it. Trump's
Mhm,
going to win
mhm.
because they
Yeah.
didn't do their homework, they didn't do it properly,
Right.
and they're going to lose in the long run. And they did.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah, all right. So we have about six or five questions today we are discussing, and then I will try to translate into Chinese later today. And this is such a
Are you
good
saying
moment.
no more questions?
Well, actually, yes, I do have another question. This
Oh, so you lied to me.
yeah, one time. You
Okay.
all right. So about Elon Musk, I'm just keep thinking about this guy. Is he's a genius, of course, but why he just against Trump like this? Because I'm thinking he's smart. He should know that Trump's policy, his principle, what he's working for, and he's all in. And then 6 months after, he's just against Trump like an enemy. What happened? I don't know. I don't understand.
I
What
don't
do you
know either. I don't know if he's just crazy, you know, unstable, typical very, very rich person that maybe lacks common sense in some ways. I don't know. Good question. But you look at the companies that he's formed and what they've done together.
Right.
What he did with Doge, which was phenomenal. The
Right.
people that he brought on board to look at these individual companies,
Right.
and and I think people need to really understand how much good he did.
Yes.
And
So,
and it would help if he was a little bit humble, but you know, he's a
uh,
genius, and usually they're not.
right.
But
So
you
you
know,
think you tend to think that because of the personality, right?
I
It's
think, yeah, and I think that the way Trump has been in the past with people like that is he doesn't hold a grudge for the long run. If they come around and if they're, reasonable and all of that, and then turn and end up support. You look at many of the people that Trump has put in high positions now, they
hmm
were very anti-Trump 4 or 5 years ago,
hmm
and
good point.
and now look at them,
Right.
that if they come around and support Trump and apologize or, say they were wrong, then Trump will usually forgive them. And if they're competent, he'll bring
hmm
them in. J.D.
Yeah.
Vance being a good
Yeah.
good
Right.
example of that.
Right.
So you have many of the people, and then in politics, when they run for office, they're always accusing each other of bad, calling each other bad names and doing all of that. And then when the election's over and one side wins or the other, they usually make up and work together.
Hmm
If you remember in the 2016 campaign, the things that Trump said against, Ted Cruz,
hmm
uh, little Marco Rubio in
Right.
Florida,
Yeah. Yeah.
many of the people, the names he called them, the names they called each other, and
hmm
now look at, they're his key supporters.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah, that's a good point. But do you see the similar situation in Democrats? Like Obama's cabinets criticize him, or they are always like united together?
no, they're not always united, but I think that it depends on, how vindictive and the personality of the person,
Hmm
especially like Obama,
hmm
Biden. To me, they're very vindictive. They're very, I don't want to out and out say evil, but I question their decision making a lot.
mm Good point. Yeah, that's right. So we'll see if maybe next week, just phenomena just change. Who knows, right? It's really hard to say. This is the second time already. You remember the first time when they argue with each other and then they're getting along, and then all of a sudden they argued again. This time, I think it's Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So we'll see what's going on. And some people just wondering that Elon Musk and Chinese government have a kind of tied. Um, Elon Musk, his mom is in China, have a very good time there. And what do you think the possibility that
Well, I
the
think, yeah, Elon Musk has a lot to be thankful to the government of China.
right,
It helped them a lot along the way. Other
mhm,
governments have, our government has.
right,
So we'll see. We'll see where that leads to in the long run.
okay,
Don't
so
forget, he still wants to get to Mars. He still wants to build the moon station to enable the trip to Mars. So there's a
mhm,
lot of really big ambition that he has. So
mhm,
I think in the long run, he doesn't want to completely alienate the whole administration
mhm,
and be cut off from achieving those goals that he wants to achieve.
yeah. And yeah, talking about Mars, some people just have some other thought about his Mars project. And some people said, okay, we have so many issues on the Earth. Rather than deal with the issue on on the Earth, why you go to Mars? What do you think about that? Do you think it's a
Well,
necessary?
that's always, I can remember as a teenager at the height of
Uh-huh.
the space program in the 60s, the Mercury project, the Gemini project, the Apollo project. You heard that all through.
Mhm.
That we could use that money on Earth to,
Right.
do good things. And, people always, and then you have other people that say, the development of technology and the ability, to learn
Mhm.
is overrides every other thing that you say, because in the long run, they don't use that money for good anyway. If they're not using it in space, they'll use it where? Who knows?
Yeah.
So I think that I think in a lot of ways you always hear that argument.
Hmm. Okay. So it's not new.
No, and then you look at who went up and rescued our astronauts when they were stuck for 9 months on the space
Right.
station?
Yeah.
Musk.
Yeah.
Because NASA trusted Boeing, and Boeing has been so mismanagement
Hmm.
through DEI, that their planes are failing, their space program failed, many, many problems with Boeing, when for decades that was the all-American company, Boeing.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then they bought into DEI and all of this nonsense, and it's hurt the company.
Yeah.
And you have Elon Musk, who his company, SpaceX, very successful. Starlink, very successful. Tesla, obviously the number one electric car in the world. And now he's promoting the fact that electric is going to be out anyway. He's
Hmm.
developing the new car that's not going to be electric and it'll be better.
Right.
So, plus on the internet, you'll see Tesla has the new watch from Elon Musk that will have built-in sensors that you don't need a sensor for blood sugar. It'll
Uh-huh.
all be
Yeah.
built
Yeah.
into the
Right.
watch. The
Uh-huh.
new telephones that will be
Uh-huh.
basically like Starlink and have GPS and worldwide capability built into them. So he has all these technological things that are still coming out one after the other.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. These argument is always there, but some money will not be used in good anyway. So why do we use this money to some? Yeah. That's a very good point. I like
yeah,
it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you that Elon is such a unique genius. Have to admit, this guy is a genius. So he's probably his point of view or the way he look at the things is different too.
yeah, and you've always had like the standing jokes that this person's a genius, but they can't tie their own shoes, or things like that. So.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk, I think, very, very unique and
Hmm.
brilliant guy,
Hmm.
and in some ways maybe too brilliant for his own good, but it could be.
Yeah. We'll
And
see.
then, that makes you like the issue of being a libertarian. It makes you a perfectionist on that ideology. You really want that.
Right.
So if you see the government not following it or helping it, then you raise issues about it like he does.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Oh, thank you so much. We talk a lot about Elon, which really help people to understand the situation and try to understand this genius.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all trying.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll see you next week.
See you then. Take care.
Mhm. Take care.